What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the NFL Sunday Roundup Show here on the Betting Pros podcast. I'm your host, Russell Brown. You can find me on Twitter at Russ NFL Draft. This is a new show that we're bringing to you here at Betting Pros. We are going to recap the week in the NFL here on Sunday night, and then we're going to look ahead to the next week, some of the early lines, and see if we can get you more bang for your buck before injury reports and those types of things start coming out throughout the week and throughout practice across the NFL. So we're going to jump right in to week 3 in the NFL, and what a week it really was here today on Sunday. I mean, just a lot of kind of off the wall stuff. The Giants are covering the spread at 6.5 against the Browns. The Bears kind of look lost on offense. They lose to the Colts. The Texans get blown out on the road to the Vikings 34-7. We saw the Steelers go up 20-10 on the Chargers, and they win. They're 3-0 on the year. How about the Broncos beating the Buccaneers? A lot of stuff that we're going to get into. We're not going to get into every bit of it, but I'm going to get into a couple of different things. One of those things starting with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Many folks are going to want to bet the under on the Pittsburgh Steelers, and rightfully so. But the Steelers are 3-0 against the spread this year to start this season off. They covered 2.5 today, and since Big Ben retired after the 2021 season, the Steelers have gone 23-14-1 against the spread. Fun stat from Evan Abrams of the Action Network. That is the second best mark in the NFL outside of the Detroit Lions. They were 10-8 against the spread last year. They're already 3-0 this year. They've got an elite defense. They have Justin Fields at quarterback doing just enough to get the job done. This is a team that if you're looking at them the way that the spreads are with them, it's normally a pretty narrow number. So it's going to be a smaller number. This is a team that I would get on and just bet till it fails. I mean, this is one of those that you just ride it until it fails. They are right now -1 on the road to Indianapolis. I would be jumping all over this for next week, week 4. Love that number for them. So I would be jumping on that. We're going to stay in the AFC North here. We're going to look at the Cleveland Browns. This is a team right now. They have not been good against the spread to start the season. They're 1-2 against the spread. They failed to cover 6.5 against the Giants today, like we said. The Browns have a very good defense, but their offense is so hit or miss. They don't have Nick Chubb, as we know. Quarterback Deshaun Watson has been very up and down. Their offensive line has been banged up, and they have been just very bad up front. Deshaun Watson has been sacked 16 times this season. He was sacked 8 times today. I'm not sure we can really trust this team moving forward. So if you're going to try to convince me to play the Cleveland Browns, I'm probably going to pass just about every single chance I get. I don't know what to do with them. They're 1-point favorites right now, early line, week 4 in Las Vegas. I think a lot of that is simply because of what the Carolina Panthers did. We'll see what happens, but I want nothing to do with the Cleveland Browns. Just a bad football team. They look like a bad football team. So I would stay away from the Cleveland Browns. And that was a team that really stood out as a favorite, a heavy favorite at 6.5. And they could not cover that number. So stay away from the Cleveland Browns. But moving on, New York Giants, Malik Neighbors, kind of focusing on some player props here. Look, I think when you look at the Giants, this is a team that is very one-sided. They have really one player. And in fantasy football, Malik Neighbors is wide receiver 1 unless something crazy happens tonight with Rashee Rice and the players that are going tonight. But I think when you look at Malik Neighbors, he is a target magnet. He is a reception guy, a yardage guy. He had 2 receiving touchdowns today. He was the youngest player in NFL history with 2+ receiving touchdowns in one game. So I think when you look at him, I know Daniel Jones is bad. I don't trust Daniel Jones by any means, but just looking at what he can do, 23 receptions on 37 targets this year. He's averaging almost 8 receptions a game, averaging over 90 receiving yards per game. Look at his player props on a weekly basis. And I would be targeting Malik Neighbors on almost every single bet that I put together, probably on a weekly basis until that fails. I mean, he's basically printing money at this rate. So I would be looking at him later in the week and seeing, obviously what is his health, what is the health of the team around him and the defense that they're playing against. They've got the Cowboys on Thursday night, though, so a short week. We saw the Baltimore Ravens get one by the Dallas Cowboys tonight, 28-25. So I think the Giants, 6-point dogs right now. Either way, I like Malik Neighbors player props for Thursday night. So I would jump on that because the Cowboys defense is really struggling. I mean, they struggled today against Lamar and the Ravens. So look at Malik Neighbors. Moving to another team, the Chicago Bears. I talked about them a little bit already, but the offense is kind of lost. They're punting the ball more than, Caleb Williams had said to the punter as he texted him. So it's one of those things. But I look at this and the under is really the intriguing thing here because it's hit 3 straight times this year. I think a lot of that is to the struggles on offense, but the Bears do play good defense. They're only allowing 18 points per game. They only allowed 21 points today. But the big stat offensively for them is they have been so bad on second down that they're getting themselves in situations where third down is not even manageable. So they're 5 for 59 on second down this year. They've kind of got an odd schedule where maybe the under isn't necessarily in play, but I think you got to have to monitor, or you're going to have to monitor them a little bit. They play the Rams, Carolina, and Jacksonville over the next 3 weeks. So the under very much I think in play. It's been profitable up to this point. So keep tabs on that. And then lastly, I talked about the Minnesota Vikings upsetting the Houston Texans. I don't think anybody had the Vikings winning. I did. I thought the Vikings at +2.5 in my betting pool. I took it simply because of the injuries that were sustained to Joe Mixon and Nico Collins. I know Collins played today, but when I look at the Vikings, they just have such a good defense. I mean, they are elite across the board there. It is legit. They beat them up. They're 3-0 against the spread. The under is hit in every single game so far this year for them. They were only giving up 11.5 points per game entering today. They only gave up 7 against C.J. Stroud and the Texans, one of the better offenses. So I look at them and I say, hey, you might want to touch the under in those games. They got the Packers coming up. The Packers are 2-point favorites. I don't know if I necessarily buy that. Maybe if Jordan Love's playing, I like what Malik Willis is doing, but it kind of feels like, does he come back to earth against Minnesota, a defense that has been playing so well? Meanwhile, the total on that game next week, 44 points, -110. You take the under. I think you might want to simply because of how the defense has been playing in Minnesota. Lastly, I've got 2 things here for week 3. Fraud alert for 2 teams in the NFL. Go ahead, sound the alarms. Possibly, definitely one team, maybe not another team, but I think I'm leaning towards sounding the alarm. That team is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They looked bad today. They got upset against Denver and Bo Nix, who I thought Denver looked terrible the first 2 weeks of the season. But Baker Mayfield kind of comes back to earth a little bit, and I like Baker, but he only threw for 163 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He was sacked 7 times today. They've got some injuries up front that's really causing some problems. Bucky Irving looked good, though. He ran the ball really well. And Chris Godwin, he's kind of like automatic. But they gave up 26 points as a defense at home. You can't have that. They were 6.5-point favorites going into this game. I bet them straight up. I put them in my teaser. That's how good I felt about it. So maybe I'm a little salty. Maybe they put the salt in the wound here, but I don't know if you can trust this team moving forward, especially when you look at not just the next game or the next couple of games. Look at the next 7 games. It's not an easy schedule at all. They've got Philly. They've got Atlanta twice. So they'll play them at home, and then they got to go to Atlanta. They got to go to Kansas City. They have San Francisco. They've got New Orleans at New Orleans, and they've got Baltimore. I don't know what the numbers are going to look like each week moving forward. We'll obviously monitor it, but this is a team, I don't know how much we can trust them moving forward. They are 2-point dogs at home right now against the Philadelphia Eagles. So I would not be shocked if the Bucs kind of come back to earth a little bit and they maybe go against the spread in a bad way moving forward. So I kind of like early on here the Eagles at -2 who were able to win on the road in New Orleans today. So I think Tampa's reaching fraud alert levels here. And then the other team, the Tennessee Titans, you don't want to put Tampa there, go ahead. You don't have to, but put the Tennessee Titans in that category. They didn't cover 2.5 today against Malik Willis while they were at home. They look bad offensively. DeAndre Hopkins is barely playing. He's not getting a bunch of snaps. And when he does, yeah, he's getting the ball, but Will Levis, he is looking lost. I mean, he's got a lot of tools to work with as a quarterback in the draft world, but man, does Will Levis just look bad. Turning the football over, 7 total turnovers, 5 interceptions, 2 fumbles. Their defense, they're not giving up a lot of yardage, but they're giving up a lot of points. They gave up 30 points today. Going into today, they were allowing 24 points per game. This is a team that's 0-3 against the spread to start the year. I think right now, especially over the next 4 games, I think you bet against them every chance you get. They've got Miami, Indianapolis, Buffalo, and Detroit, especially against Buffalo and Detroit, and probably Indianapolis. This is a team I would bet against simply because of how bad they've looked. And maybe they figure it out, but I wouldn't hold my breath. I think this is a team right now that is just really lost. I don't know if they have it right at the quarterback position. It doesn't feel like they do. They play next Monday. We got back-to-back Monday games, and actually Miami opens up as 1-point favorites at home against Tennessee. The total is set at 38 points. So keep tabs on Tennessee as a potential fraud. And as we look ahead to the NFL in week 4, this is the Chiefs and the Chargers. The Chiefs are about to play in about 20, 30 minutes. So we'll kind of see what happens there. What does that offense look like with Isaiah Pacheco? But next week, when you look at this team, I can't help but look at the Los Angeles Chargers. This opened up at 4. It is now moved to 9. So I should probably fix that. But it's one of those 9-point favorites on the road against the Chargers, minus 105. I think I would be leaning towards the Chiefs. I'll be honest. I would lean towards the Chiefs just simply because this Chargers team does not look very good. Justin Herbert was seen leaving with a boot today. So that is something that, you're going to have to monitor. I don't know what the health is of Justin Herbert. It's not healthy. So I like the Chiefs. I mean, we might see a close game because it's a division game. It's in LA. But looking at this, I mean, I think Samaje Perine is going to be able to step in and run the ball well. I think Carson Steele will be able to run the ball well. Obviously, Pat Mahomes is going to do Pat Mahomes type things. So I look at this and I just say there's a lot of injuries to the Chargers, specifically at quarterback. I can't pass on the Chiefs at 9-point favorites. I can't believe they've already moved that line 5 points. It was at 4 originally when it opened up, and now it's at 9. So I would jump on the Chiefs minus 9 at the Chargers because I think once Herbert probably either gets announced as injured and out or extremely banged up, I think this number could definitely get into the double digits. So keep tabs on the Chiefs at minus 9. Next up, Bills, Ravens, over 45.5. I didn't like this until about an hour ago when the Ravens just took their foot off the gas, gave up 25 points to the Cowboys. They were owning them. But I think this is a Baltimore offense that is, really good. They are really good. They get to return home in this spot. They're averaging 417.5 yards per game going into this. The over was 3-0. It is now 3-0. They are 3-0 to the over this year. Buffalo is 1-1. Probably would be 2-0 if Miami would have played better in week 2. They only scored 10 points. So I look at this number over 45.5. I really like the next game, Falcons and Saints for next week, under 45.5. I'm probably going to get burnt here. And I say that because I bet this game last year on the under around the same total. It was around the same time, week 3 or week 4. Maybe it was week 2. But either way, I bet the under and I got burnt. So maybe we go the other way here. But I just look at this and I say, New Orleans offense kind of came back to earth a little bit today. They were playing an extremely high level, which is kind of uncharacteristic. No shots thrown to Derek Carr and Alvin Kamara. I like the way that those guys play, and I like that pairing. But they were scoring points at will, and it was kind of like, okay, they've got to come back to earth a little bit here, and I think they did. They only gave up 15 points today, but they only scored 12. Atlanta, they've only given up 19.5 points per game. The under is hitting both of their games. They play again tonight against Kansas City, so we'll see. But New Orleans is really struggling on first and second down, and it's kind of making some tough situations on third down. They're converting, but it's making it tough. If Atlanta's defense steps up, I think it could be a tough game. So I like the under here, and I like it for the other reason of both teams should be able to run the football just a little bit. Bijan Robinson, Alvin Kamara, that's going to get the clock going. So 45.5, I mean, we're looking at 24-21. I think that's very much in the cards here for this game. So I like the under early on here. We'll obviously monitor injuries and those types of things. Next up, we got to talk about this team. The Carolina Panthers, just wow. I mean, I was leaning towards the total of the Rams and Bears game. I need more time on that. I'll kind of figure that out. We'll talk about it on Twitter at Russ NFL Draft. We will also talk about it in the Discord chat, which, by the way, you guys can definitely get in on the Discord chat. It is top notch. There are plays across the board, and if you are looking to up your game in sports betting, you need to join our exclusive sports betting Discord community at bettingpros.com/chat. Not only can you connect with expert handicappers who provide free picks for the NBA, the NFL, Major League Baseball, the NHL, player props, live betting, and so much more, but you can also participate in our weekly community picks. So cast your vote, see how your picks stack up against the experts, and track your success by getting to the Betting Pros Discord. Again, that's bettingpros.com/chat. And we will talk about that, the Rams and the Bears game in there. But I want to focus on the Panthers here, plus 6.5 at minus 110 against the Bengals. The Bengals play tomorrow against the Commanders. They're 7.5-point favorites, but I'm leaning towards Carolina here at 6.5. They switched to Andy Dalton today, and wow, did it work? They put up 36 points. Andy Dalton was 26-37 for 319 yards and 3 touchdowns to a Raiders team that came back on the road from behind to beat the Ravens last week. So I think that this is a big number for a Bengals team to cover. I just don't know if I trust Joe Burrow and the Bengals just yet. I'm not fully convinced that he's 100% healthy. We got to see what T. Higgins is going to look like in this offense. Is he healthy? Can they get the run game going with Zach Moss and Chase Brown? But furthermore, we get Andy Dalton against his former team, the Cincinnati Bengals, at home in Carolina. I think you take that at 6.5 at minus 110. So that's the NFL Week 4 look ahead spot. Again, there's a lot of line movement early on here on Sunday night. There's a lot of different games that I want to talk about, but those were the 4 games that really stood out to me. And we're not done. We still have more bets to place. I mean, we have Sunday Night Football. Go ahead, get in there and go ahead and take a look. I use DraftKings, and that's what we're using here. That's the odds that we look at on a weekly basis. And we're looking at Monday night. We're looking at tomorrow. So let's jump into Monday Night Football, where I have my 3 bets that I can't pass them up. These are bets that I think are going to smash. I think they're going to win you money, whether you take them straight up or you parlay them. And we're going to get into the parlay. But let me look at bet number 1, Josh Allen, anytime touchdown. Against the Dolphins last week, the Bills didn't really need to run the football with Josh Allen. They went up big and essentially gave Josh the day off from running the football because they were up 31-10. I think that could change on Monday night against the Jaguars defense that is allowing 103 rushing yards per game. Furthermore, Josh Allen in the red zone, it's something that happens. The closer they get to the goal line, the more frequently they seem to use him. So I like this at his odds at minus 110. Furthermore, staying with this game, the Bills' run defense has been questionable to start the year. They've given up 131 rushing yards per game. So I like Travis Etienne over 49.5 rushing yards for bet number 2 at minus 115. Jaguars running back Tank Bigsby is questionable due to a hamstring, so we could see more touches for Etienne. I think they've got to get him more involved if they want to start winning football games and getting their offense in the right direction. He's currently averaging 13.5 carries per game, so I think that this is one of those where they got to get the offense going in Jacksonville. Furthermore, they've got to keep Josh Allen and the Bills' offense off the field, so they'll need to give him the football. A rushing total of 49.5. I feel like that's really low for an RB1, and I think you got to go ahead and take it. And you guys, as you can see here, same game parlay at plus 290 odds. These might change by tomorrow, so you might want to jump in and go ahead and do it. And you guys can do this with a same game parlay builder. If you're looking to build your own same game parlay, check out the Betting Pros same game parlay builder. Combine multiple bets within a single NFL game, leveraging insights like correlated bet recommendations, EV ratings, cover probability, and more. Perfect your betting strategy by analyzing our overall correlation grades and projections, and stay ahead by following the latest same game parlays placed by fellow bettors. You can start building winning parlays today at bettingpros.com/parlay or on the Betting Pros sports betting app. So we are going to same game those two. We're going to bet them straight up, but we're also going to put them in a parlay at plus 290. I feel good about it. And if you want to get a little crazy, you want to make a third bet, you can do so by taking Brian Robinson over 54.5 rushing yards. Like I said, there's 2 games tomorrow. We have the Bills and the Jaguars. Then we have the Commanders playing as well against the Bengals. And I know the Commanders have a split backfield with Brian Robinson Jr. and Austin Eckler, but I have a lot of trust in Brian Robinson, and I like his usage with rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels. The Bengals are getting gashed on the ground right now. They've allowed 159.5 rushing yards per game. In week 2, they gave up 90 yards on the ground to Isaiah Pacheco. I think we could see a similar result here. Brian Robinson is 8th in the NFL with 173 rushing yards this season. He's averaging 86.5 rushing yards per game, and he's getting 6 yards per carry. So jump on his rushing total at 54.5. Take the over, minus 115. You can take all 3 bets, put them together, plus 629. And of course, like I said, you can use the bettingpros.com/parlay same game parlay builder. It is beautiful to use. You can do that by simply going, again, over to bettingpros.com/parlay. So that's tomorrow's Monday night bet. That is NFL Week 3 kind of quick recap and an NFL Week 4 look ahead spot here on the NFL Sunday Roundup show on the Betting Pros podcast. We will be back next Sunday doing a week 4 week recap and a week 5 look ahead. We're going to be getting into bye week, so things are going to start changing in the betting world. We'll see what the market does and what the lines and totals look like next week. So we will be back next week right here on the NFL Sunday Roundup show on the Betting Pros podcast.